what's in here. Poison hemlock. I'm gonna tell you not to mess with poison hemlock. If you do everything you can not to touch it. In today's video, we're gonna show you some very, very important facts and differentiating features between plants that get mixed up. So in here, you'll learn how to identify poison hemlock and why to avoid it. Know the difference between poison hemlock, wild white yarrow, and Queen Anne's lace. So you'll be walking away with 100% confidence on how to identify the difference between these three. Why would you really care about poison hemlock? It's deadly, first of all. Poison hemlock is a neurotoxin. What it does, it more or less in layman's terms, disrupts the nerve impulse transmissions in your brain and your body. Hemlock. We're not even going to look at the leaves if they're pinnate compound, bipinnate, tripinnate, any of that complex stuff. We're looking at the simple, obvious things you can see from a distance. Once you've donned your gloves, you are ready to start making videos. Bam! What you have front and center is poison hemlock. That is our focus of today. You want to avoid this, which is why it's front and center. These other two on the side are good to go. Step one of this video, how to identify the differences between each individual plant. We'll start out with the most basic. Easiest way to identify it from a distance. It is June 24th, 2022. And we can see just by comparing sizes alone, the differences. So narrow is yarrow, which will make even more sense later. Queen Anne's lace is a little bigger. And then we have poison hemlock. So the ones that really get confused are poison hemlock and Queen Anne's lace. So we're going to use that as our big comparison. So right now, you can see the poison hemlock in my right hand is much, much larger, significantly larger. It's almost the size of my finger. Some of them are the size of my finger at this point, just not the one I happen to grab. Queen Anne's lace, not the size. So Queen Anne's lace is maybe a fourth the width of my finger versus poison hemlock is at least half the size of my finger. So from a distance, you can see if it's big and girthy, very likely poison hemlock. If it's not, it could be Queen Anne's lace or common yarrow. Okay, so that's your first tip, size. You can see that from 10, 15, 20 feet away. Once you get closer, poison hemlock, you can see is smooth. You can't see really any hairs. You can see the striations in here a little bit. If you look closely, you can see it right here. The same with Queen Anne's lace. You can see the striations. That's common in both of them. Poison hemlock is blotchy, has purple or dark red blotches, spots, rashes, whatever you want to call it, but it's blotchy. Queen Anne's lace is not. If you get closer, you can see, as I've already said, this is pretty smooth. There's no hairs on it, at least not visible with the naked eye. But with Queen Anne's lace, you can see all the hairs on it. As I rotate this, you can see very clearly there's a lot of hairs. Easiest way to remember that is a story time. Back in the day, Queen Anne loved to mess with these flowers. One day she pricked her finger and a little droplet of blood fell inside, leaving one dark flowerette inside of all the other flowerettes. There's a very strong identifier of Queen Anne's lace versus poison hemlock. Even though these flowers aren't blooming yet, you're not going to have that. That dark purple flower or dark red flower is going to be Queen Anne's lace only. Only Queen Anne's lace of these three has that dark purple flower or dark red flower. But doesn't mean every Queen Anne's lace has that. This is Queen Anne's lace here, no dark flower. This is Queen Anne's lace, has dark flower. These other two will not. Blotchy poison hemlock. Just think, it looks like it has a rash. Usually an allergic reaction causes rashes. Poison hemlock, not good. Stay away. So back to the story of Queen Anne. She used to love to play with these flowers, pricked her finger, drew some blood, now there's a stain. And back in the day, they didn't like to shave their legs or armpits. So Queen Anne had nice, furry legs, versus poison hemlock does not. So Queen Anne had furry legs. Queen Anne pricked her finger and had a little drop of blood. So Queen Anne, furry legs, drop of blood. Poison hemlock, smooth and blotchy, large base stem. That should be enough for anyone to identify the difference between poison hemlock and Queen Anne's lace. Now I'll come over to yarrow. This is yarrow. Without seeing everything in the background, you might think, oh, that looks similar. But once we compare them all, we get poison hemlock here. Looks kind of caratus or carrot-like. This, not so much. And notice this is tall and slender and narrow, hence yarrow. Now, to a trained eye, it's very obvious, it's very different. But to a non-trained eye, it may look very, very similar. We're not even going into all that, because all you need to know, is this. Big stem, blotchy, bad. Smooth, slender, furry, good. Queen Anne's lace, good, furry. Poison hemlock, big, blotchy, bad. Big, blotchy, bad. Yarrow, very different. If you're having a hard time remember which one's yarrow, just look at the 2 or 3. Look at the 3. Of the 3, yarrow, this guy in my right hand, yarrow is very narrow. And if you were to strip it down and rip one side down of the yarrow, this would be good this would be good fletching for an arrow. Arrow is narrow, good for a yarrow. Try that again. Arrow is narrow and good for an arrow.